from the All Indiana Podcast Network. This is AC's Conversations. AC's Conversations is about sports, music, TV, movies, and more.
Everything and more.
Everything is ready to go.
That include the latest news and rumors, along with interviews with the biggest names in sports and entertainment. This is AC's Conversations with your host, News 8 Sports Director.
The man is the real deal.
Let's go to work, fella.
Anthony Calhoun.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for checking out AC's Conversations. On this edition of The Conversation, get a chance to spend some time with Graham Rahal, our Wish TV driver analyst for the month of May. Of course, we are going racing at the Speedway starting this week, and had a chance to catch up with Graham. We talked about what transpired this past weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with that crazy weather and all the rain and wind when they were trying to race there on Saturday for the Indy Grand Prix. One thing I've always loved about Graham Rahal and respect most about him, he's never afraid to speak his mind. Enjoy this conversation with Graham Rahal on this edition of AC's Conversations. He's back with us once again, Graham Rahal. Graham, give you a little pound. Great seeing you, man. And
you're a long way there.
Yeah, I know. We're kind of, still a little separation there. But great to see you as always.
Thank you.
We're going to get to those highlights from what we saw yesterday at the Speedway. But the road race is over, and now the main focus getting ready now for the Indy 500. We're back to normal. We talked about that a couple of days ago. I know you're looking forward to this great month, right?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, so far, I think even at the Grand Prix, for everything to be fairly open. A lot of fans there. Clearly, Mother Nature wasn't so kind to us yesterday, but it is great that now we can focus on the 106th. The Indy 500 is, the granddaddy of them all, in my opinion. And it's great to be able to be here. 5 days or so, 4 days of practice, and then we'll get into qualifying.
Yeah.
A lot to get through in a short period of time, as there always is in practice here. Maybe a couple of days in which weather may not cooperate then either. But it's nice to be back home again in Indiana and focus forward. All
right, let's talk about the race from yesterday. Colton Herta got the victory, took the checker flag in yesterday's road course race. But I got to ask you this, man, and it was a wild scene. Take a look at some of these pictures. It was raining like crazy yesterday at the Speedway.
Yeah.
And see you guys out there late in the race, driving through those conditions. Explain to the folks at home, what was it like being out there on the track?
Well, to start the race, the conditions were actually pretty good.
Yeah.
It was wet, however, it wasn't overly done. At the end of that race, I can assure you, it was exceptionally dangerous. Most of us could not see a thing. I hit Renus under caution. I spun on reds, just trying on a pace lap, trying to get caught up right there. It was unbelievable how slippery it was. And during that caution, not only did I spin, Renus spun, McLaughlin spun, a bunch of guys. It was unbelievably slippery. But I felt that the actual most dangerous part of it, to be very honest with you, was just like simply the visibility. And the aero screen, while it has many, many positives, I think what caught most all of us out yesterday in particular was simply the oil that would build up on the aero screen. And when the oil was there, the way that the water would kind of wick, rather than at speed just dispersing like it normally would or on a windshield of a car, it was like kind of wavy over the top. And so often going down the back straight, for instance, I was literally looking, I couldn't see my front wheels, and that's not an exaggeration. So I'm looking up just to try to see the bridge as it goes by to know that I need to start braking. Down the front straight, I was looking for the little blue light at the end of the pit lane to tell me. It got bad enough for me, at least, at the end of the race so that I couldn't even see the walls to my sides. And so At that point, I thought IndyCar might do something. My radio stopped working halfway through the race, so I could hear pit lane, but they couldn't hear me and anything I was transmitting. So, I was surprised that we kind of got to the finish, but ultimately for the fans,
Yes. It was,
maybe too much entertainment. I get it.
It was unbelievable.
There was a lot going on.
There was a lot going on. But the good news, hey, safety, number one, obviously. I'm glad everybody was okay. But I appreciate you explaining that to the folks at home, just what it was like. Because from my perspective and other media members seeing it on TV and just being there, you're like, how in the world are these guys getting through here with this weather like
Well,
this?
and it's tough, too, because a lot of people that watch the race as well, the one thing that they miss is they look at our in-car cameras. but the in-car camera is way up here, and it's in clean air all the time. It's not dealing with the aero screen or anything like that. So what we actually see is a lot different than what the in-car camera is portraying to all of you. So challenging day.
All right, challenging day indeed. Finished 16th yesterday, but now you're getting ready for your 15th 15th Indy 500, man. I know you've been doing this for some time. Last year, so close. Had an opportunity to win your first Indy 500. We know there was just some bad luck, but what can you take away from last year as you get ready for the race coming up in a few weeks?
I would say pretty much everything. You know, we know what we need to do to be competitive there. Obviously finishing third there in 2020 and also in 2011. But if you look over the last few years, while the end result hasn't shown it, you know, 2019 we were a player until we had an issue with Bourdais at the end of the race. Obviously 2021, it was looking exceptionally good for us that we were in the position to win it. So we have been in the hunt a lot. And so for me, you know, I'm certainly going to the 500 this year. I believe that we've got a great chance to win the thing. If not, we still need to make sure that we finish well. From a points perspective throughout our season, that race carries a lot of weight. Right now we're 12th in points. We're 70-ish, 60-ish points out of first place. I lost more than that amount of points in one race last year at the Indy 500, from say finishing 4th or 5th to 32nd, where we ultimately ended up. And so it's really important too that we can have a good result to get good points for the championship. Yeah,
you know, we talked about the bad luck from last year in that race. We talk about this all the time, though. But listen, if you're going to win this, it's going to be your day. Of course, you're going to have some luck at times, and you know that going in as a driver.
Everything.
Right? Yeah.
You can do like last year. You do everything right, really. You know, you play the cards right. We did it right. We felt that we were in the hunt, and then the next thing you know, the left rear tire falls off. So, you know, it's just one of those deals, man. You try to prepare and put yourself in the best spot, you know, possible, but all it takes is one minor mistake, and it's over. So, you know, for us to just turn our attention, as I said, to this year, try to put ourselves in the best position possible. You know, our crew guys have always done an amazing job. Clearly, there was a little bobble last year, but the one thing that I do know is that they took that and really turned it into a positive. Our pit lane times, our pit stops, and everything else since that moment has increased and gotten so much better to being consistently one of the best teams in pit lane. So that's, you know, turning a negative into a positive. I think that they've done that well.
Well, you've had success at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway at the 500. I mean, let's take a look at just the success you've had throughout your time here racing at the Indy 500. And you mentioned just some of your top finishes there that you've had. 3rd place in 2020. We saw 2011 as well. 5th place in 2015. And then there's some other results there on the screen.
Yeah, and I think that you see it here, right? Like 5th place in 2015 doesn't look great, but we were the top finishing Honda that day. That was in the era really where Chevy was dominant with their aero package. That was when we had the aero kit cars, and the Chevy really crushed us. So to finish 5th that year was a tremendous result, being the lead Honda there. You know, but you look at 2019, again, we're running 4th, right? We're in the top 4, you know, with 15 laps to go. Have a crash with Bourdais that ends our race. 2021, you know, clearly right in the picture. So we've been in the hunt a lot, you know, but we do need to because I've always taken the mindset at Indy that, you know, when it kind of like in 2019 with Bourdais, when the opportunity is there for me to go, I'm going to take that window all day long. And that year, if you remember, he ended up pushing us. We both got collected, but blocked me down into the grass entering turn 3, and, you know, we made contact. And so we were fortunate to both walk away from there. But you know, in my opinion, when you go to the Indy 500, you go to the Indy 500 to win. You know, you don't go to the Indy 500 to finish 10th. It does nothing for you. So, you know, for me, even last year, you know, we were trying to play the cards right, do the fuel thing right to make sure that come lap 200, we were in the catbird seat. Now, I think we had done it right. Elio was the other guy that stood out to me just from being in the train all day long, that he was doing the similar thing to us. The difference was we had him beat on the fuel economy, but ultimately, you know, he ended up winning. And so we just need to take a little bit from there and make it happen.
Well, speaking of Elio, great transition there. Of course, Elio winning the Indy 500 last year, becoming the 4th driver to win the Indy 500 4 times, trying to go for 5, to drive for 5. Give me your take on him and just what he's been able to do. And just, look, it was incredible what he did last year, but we've seen him already this year. Give me your assessment on what do you think about just him out there and just the competitive nature of himself and these other drivers you're going up against this month.
Well, Elio's obviously, his record here speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Tremendously successful here. And there's a real chance that he gets 5. I mean, there just is, because even if it's not this year, there's no reason that guy can't race the Indy 500 multiple times before, or again. But the other thing that stands out about Elio, too, is just his top finishes. I mean, finished second, I think, a couple of times, barely lost
Very close,
to Hunter Ray there in 2014, I believe it was. So, he's been in the hunt a lot, but definitely one of the icons of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Yeah, and I want to ask you this before we take a quick time out. Look, Graham, you said this every time we speak about, this is the one, this is the race you want to win. And not to bring up last year, but man, so close to getting it done last year. How do you get your mind set for ready to focus in for this year? And even your teammates as well, as far as your entire crew.
Everybody is there. I think, you take a lot of the negatives. And as I said a minute ago, you just try to utilize those to fuel a great positive. And for us, everybody's put a lot of extra work into the offseason, into the Indy 500 race car itself in particular. I know Honda's been extremely dedicated at RLL. We've worked hand in hand with them to make sure that as we go to the 500 this year, we can put our best foot forward. There's a lot of variables that we can't control.
Yeah.
Right? And lady luck, a lot of times, is one of those variables that has to play into your hands just right. But the things that we can control, I feel like as a team we've done it right. We're prepared. And now it's time for us to execute and make it happen. So hopefully we can do so.
Yeah, it's going to be great this year because obviously yesterday's race was awesome, very competitive. But boy, we got some big-time playmakers, if you will, on the track when it comes to this race for the Indy 500. Of course, you think about guys like Jimmy Johnson. He's ready to give it a start this year. Already doing the IndyCar. He's been pretty solid this year. I mean, he's at a top 10 finish already this year. Give me your take on just having guys like him on the scene now, especially with this race coming up.
Well, it's been great to have Jimmy. I've said many, many times, I think it speaks a lot to his character, right? That he comes out of, one of the most successful NASCAR careers ever, if not the most successful.
Yeah.
And then you come over to IndyCar where really for most people, all you're going to do is harm your reputation, But for him, it was just a great challenge to come and test himself. Yesterday had to be a crazy challenge because racing in the rain was probably something he's never done before,
right. Yeah.
let alone driving an IndyCar in the rain. So big time stressor. But for the Indy 500, I mean, I think, Jimmy, he had a great showing down there at Texas, and I expect him to be very solid for Indy. So he'll be just fine. Yeah,
you look at guys like him out there. What kind of advice? I mean, you don't want to give too much away, but if he just asks you what
he doesn't need anything from me.
That's right.
He doesn't need anything from me. And the other thing to keep in mind with Jimmy too is that he's got Dixie. On his team, and guys that have, Dario is obviously working
Who's
there,
been there.
Scott Pruitt, those guys, a lot of experience. He doesn't need me, and plus, I think for Jimmy, he understands the flow of an oval race. I think a lot of times between NASCAR and IndyCar, there are a lot of similarities in how it works. Obviously, you've got to get to the end, and be able to challenge for the win, and Jimmy gets all of that. So as long as their cars are good, which the Ganassi cars always are at Indy, and the Honda power and everything else is strong, which it should be. He's going to be there. He'll be in the hunt.
He'll be in the hunt. You heard it here first from Graham Rahal. We'll see what happens. Hopefully he's behind Graham Rahal, though, when it comes to that last lap there at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's going to be cool, the fact that we talked about this earlier, it's going to be back to normal. Past couple of years dealing with the pandemic, full house on display. And I can think of one guy who's extremely happy about that, and that is the man himself, Roger Penske. It's got to be a special moment for this guy. We know he puts his heart and soul when it comes to racing, especially his new home when it comes to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, being the owner of that place. And I know he's got to be thrilled to have fans back in the stands, a full house. I know you as a driver have to be thrilled about that as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, Roger's got to be pumped up because he bought this place.
That's right.
We got COVID about a month later.
He paid just a little penny for it, right?
So the timing couldn't have been any worse. But yes, I'm excited for him. I know that the crowd is shaping up to be massive. Ticket sales, particularly for the grandstand seats, are way up. Snake pit, we got to get some snake pit sales going. So all of you college people that are ready to go and see your first Indy 500, or you've been many times before, they've got a great lineup of musicians and DJs for that, which would be killer. But for Roger, yes, for sure, it'd be great to have a full house. To see everybody back home again. I know that their commercial segment is all about that, to get everybody back home again in Indiana, right here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And we can't wait to see him. I mean, ultimately as a driver, last year it was a solid crowd. It was what it could be, I think, by limiting capacity. But a full house is what we look forward to racing and putting on a great show in front of. And so we're looking forward to that.
It's going to be a good time. Cannot wait indeed for the race coming up in a few weeks. Hey, this was pretty cool yesterday. I know you get a chance to connect with Pacer star Tyrese Halliburton, folks. He was there at the road course race and in the two-seater with the legend himself, Mario Andretti. How cool is that to see the Pacer player there supporting you guys? And it seemed like to me he had a time of his life.
Well, it's great to see him there and to expose these guys as something completely different, right?
Yeah.
I know DeForest Buckner was there, and we're trying to get. I saw Ryan Kelly was out there as well from the Colts with us, and so there's a bunch of guys that have made an appearance out to the Speedway, and I think it's really important to keep connecting all of our Central Indiana sports, all the athletes to the 500 and to the Speedway. I mean, ultimately, the Speedway is such a massive part of the culture and the fabric of Indiana, and for these folks to come and to be able to see what it's all about is amazing. So obviously it would have been better if the Pacers were still playing, but if they're not, it's great to see him out supporting us at the track.
All right, so he's going to be with me on Tuesday every night at 6 o'clock here on Wish TV. Practice begins on Tuesday. What is your focus as you get ready for Fast Friday coming up on Friday, obviously, and then qualifying this weekend?
Well, it's going to be interesting because as I look at it right now, focus is to have a good car for qualifying off the bat, and then we'll work on the race car as well. But the weather looks like, if I'm seeing it right, I'm obviously no weatherman, but we could have rain on Wednesday. It looks pretty hot Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday suddenly the temperature drops quite drastically. That changes a lot on our race, on our qualifying cars even. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes, but we're looking forward to it. It'll be a great challenge ahead.
All right, man. Well, all the best to you. Good luck this month of May. And, of course, as I mentioned, Graham's hanging out with us here all month long here on Wish TV. Always a good time with GR. Big thank you to my friend, Graham Rahal. Of course, you can see Graham hanging out with yours truly every night for the month of May at 6 o'clock on Wish TV. Thank you, everybody, for listening to AC's Conversations. Of course, you know the deal. It's always a great time here when we get a chance to talk to some of the biggest names when it comes to sports right here in Central Indiana.
Discover more at wishtv.com and when you follow Wish TV on Facebook. Plus, be sure to follow and subscribe to the AC's Conversations podcast and others on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Connect now at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.